to order the Monday, July 7th meeting of the Verona Plan Commission, and we will have the roll call, please.
Commissioner Manley?
Here.
Commissioner Ritter?
Here.
Mayor Holcomer?
Here.
Commissioner Horsfall?
Here.
Commissioner Heinzen?
Here.
And Commissioner Lytle is absent and excused, and so is Alderperson Linder.
We do have a quorum, so we will proceed. Next order of business is approval of the minutes from the June 2nd meeting, and those minutes were included with your packet. What is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Horsfall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritter. Were there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Next, we will move into a public hearing on a conditional use permit for Lot 25 of Liberty Business Park to allow a group development consisting of 2 flex buildings located at 807 Liberty Drive. Is there a motion to go into the public hearing, please?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heinzen. All in favor of going into the public hearing signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. We are in the public hearing stage, and I would ask Mr. Sayre if you would provide the background, please.
This is a conditional use permit to allow for a group development. A group development is when multiple buildings are located on one parcel. In this situation, there is an existing building, or flex building, that's actually under construction right now. The proposed second building before you tonight would be located immediately east of the building that's under construction today. Like I said, it's a conditional use permit. This is a recommendation to the Common Council.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. We are in the public hearing stage. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak? Not seeing anyone that wants to speak, so I would accept a motion to close the public hearing. All those, a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heinzen. All in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. We are now on agenda item 4A. If we were to take action here, this would be a recommendation to the Common Council. Mr. Sayre, is there anything to add?
Sure, I can add a little bit. Once again, this is a conditional use permit and a site plan review for Lot 25 in Liberty Business Park. On your screen in front of you, you'll see the proposed building, which is right here. The building that the Plan Commission approved last year and under construction right now is located immediately west, so just off the screen here. Staff did review the project from a bulk standpoint. It does meet all of the setback requirements. The applicant is proposing 105 parking spaces for the use, which does meet the ordinance requirements. One item that we've noted is that the site is probably overparked. There's a good chance they could reduce the parking on the site between 15 and 25 spaces, most likely showing possibly this area or an area in here, even south of the building here, as a future parking expansion area. I don't think they need this amount of parking on the site, so staff would be very comfortable in them just showing that as a future parking expansion area instead of actually building it. Access will be provided off of Clarity Street in the future. There's an access point here, and also a future access point here to Clarity Street, the cul-de-sac. Clarity Street is planned to be constructed at some point this year. A conditional approval would be that occupancy of this building would not be allowed until that street is completed and accepted by the city as complete. Drainage and stormwater plans were submitted to the city engineer for review. At this time, staff has no major concerns with those. A landscaping plan was submitted. The code requires approximately 1,700 landscaping points. The applicant's providing almost 2,000 points. Staff has no concerns with the landscaping plan. Photometric plans were provided once again. Staff has no concerns with those as it does meet the ordinance requirements. The building itself will contain brick, metal, split-face CMU, and EIFS. These materials are consistent with the building that was approved to the west. Based upon some staff comments at the last Plan Commission meeting, the applicant has also varied the elevation of the actual building height to help break up the mass and the scale of the building. Staff does believe this is appropriate for this location. We think it's a nice use of playing with the elevations and heights to kind of take that building length down and try to make it more pedestrian scale and more compatible with the surrounding areas. So staff has no concerns with that. One of the items that I noted at the last Plan Commission meeting, which I'll note again, is just that I think long-term, this building could still have some future challenges of have the visibility. As it's orientated right now, it will be lacking visibility from Liberty Drive and traffic coming from the west to the east. I think the project works. I know the applicant does have tenants lined up for the existing space, but I do believe there could be some challenges in the future. If the building were to become vacant and sit for a while, it's most likely going to be because of visibility. The challenge will be on the southern end of the site that will have very little visibility from Clarity Street. I think it's a concern. I don't think from my standpoint it's a reason to hold the project up, but once again, I just want to note that again, that visibility on this, it will be lacking. Staff did go through the findings of facts for the conditional use permit and finds that it does meet both the general and specific findings. So with that, staff recommends the Plan Commission approve the site plan to allow for the construction of a 26,500 square foot flex building to be located on Lot 25 of Liberty Business Park with the following condition: that the extension of Clarity Street shall be constructed and accepted by the city as a public roadway prior to the issuance of occupancy permits. And staff also recommends the Plan Commission recommend to the Common Council approval of a group development land use to allow for construction of a 26,500 square foot flex building to be located on Lot 25 of Liberty Business Park.
You've heard the background from Mr. Sayre. The applicant is here this evening. Are there any questions or comments from the Plan Commission members? This was before us before. It's very similar to the other project. Any questions, concerns, or motions at this time? Mr. Horsfall?
Do you want two motions, or, because this is 4A, do you want 4A and B can be lumped into one? Two motions, but at the same time. Do you want us to vote on the one first and then move the second one?
A
or-
separate motion for the site plan and a separate motion for the conditional use.
Yeah, conditional use would go to the Common Council, site plan would not.
Okay.
Mr. Horsfall?
At this time, I'd like to, the Plan Commission to approve the site plan to allow the construction of 26,500 square foot flex building to be located at Lot 25 of Liberty Business Park with the following conditions: an extension of Clarity Street shall be constructed and accepted by the city as a public roadway prior to the issuance of occupancy permits.
We have a motion by Mr. Horsfall. Is there a second?
Just a point of clarification, was that for the conditional use permit or the site plan?
He made the motion for the site plan.
So I should have said conditional use permit, the recommend. That's why I was kind of a little confused about the order of in the report versus the order in the.
Right.
So can I say never mind and try again?
You can say never mind and try again. There was no second to the motion.
Okay, great. At this time, I'd like to recommend that Common Council approve the group development land use to allow the construction of 26,500 square foot flex building to be located at Lot 25 of Liberty Business Park. Now a little closer.
We have a motion by Mr. Horsfall. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Ritter. We are now open for discussion on that motion. And again, it is a recommendation to the Common Council. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. I will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. We are now on agenda item 4B, which is the site plan, and that would be approval by the Plan Commission. Any questions, comments, or potential motions? Ms. Ritter?
Sure. I'd like to suggest that the Plan Commission approve the site plan to allow the construction of a 26,500 square foot flex building to be located at Lot 25 of Liberty Business Park with the following condition: that the extension of Clarity Street shall be constructed and accepted by the city as a public roadway prior to the issuance of occupancy permits.
We have a motion by Ms. Ritter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Horsfall. Now questions on the motion? Any questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. We are now on agenda item number 5, which is a public hearing regarding a conditional use permit on lots 16 and 17 of Liberty Business Park to allow for the construction of a 4-story, 66-foot-tall hotel at 846 Liberty Drive. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritter. All those in favor of going into public hearing signify by saying aye. Opposed, no, and that motion carries. Mr. Sarah, if you would provide the background, please.
The request tonight is a conditional use permit for the construction of a 66-foot tall hotel and also the indoor commercial lodging land use. So there's a conditional use for the height and also for the use of the property itself. This is a conditional use in the SC Suburban Commercial Zoning District, and this is a recommendation to the Common Council.
You've heard the explanation. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak under public comment? Anyone that wishes to speak, I should say, in the public hearing? And again, if you would identify yourself, not only for our benefit, we know who you are, but for those watching at home.
Heather Reiki. I live at 706 Ariel Lane. I'm also part of the Common Council in District 4. And I'm just concerned about the water runoff during construction of this project because it's pretty big and it's in my district, so I feel like I need to make a comment to inform the public of what the control will be for that during construction and of course afterwards too.
Okay, thank you. We will address that after the public comment, public hearing. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? I'm not seeing anyone else. I would accept the motion to close the public hearing. We have a motion by Ms. Ritter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heinzen. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. So now we are on the items under agenda item 5. And on these items, item A and item C would go to a recommendation to the Common Council, and B would be approval by the Plan Commission. Mr. Sayre, is there anything in addition you'd like to add?
Yes. So the request tonight is to construct a 231-room hotel on lots 16 and 17 in Liberty Business Park. So this would be a conditional use permit for the height and the use, the site plan for the building, and then also a certified survey map, which is actually at your chair tonight when you sat down to combine some lots and to allow this project to happen. This was initially discussed at the June Plan Commission meeting. Some of the comments included looking at the building's architecture and demand for an additional hotel in the city. This facility will have a fitness center, pool, restaurant, and meeting space. So staff did review it from a bulk standpoint. It does meet all the required setbacks. The only bulk item that does not meet is the city's 45-foot height requirement. The building itself will be 66 feet tall to the highest point. To the top of the 4th floor, it will be 49 feet tall. So the majority of the building will be sitting at that 49-foot level, but the architectural features will be above that height. The site itself, it will front on both Liberty Drive and Fortune Drive. So Liberty on the east side, Fortune on the south. There'll be a drop-off canopy in the front and then parking around the site. Parking, there are 286 parking spaces provided. 286 spaces are required by code. We looked at the number of employees, number of rooms, the bar, restaurant in the facility, and also the meeting space. So that's how we came to that 286 space number. Access to the site will be from 3 different locations. We have access onto Liberty Drive, access onto Fortune Drive, and then a possible access here on the west side as well when Fortune Drive is constructed at some point in the future. Landscaping, the code does require 4,600 landscaping points. The applicant's providing close to 5,000 landscaping points, so it does meet the ordinance requirements. One of the items that, if the Plan Commission recommends approval, is for them to submit a photometric plan. There was a photometric plan submitted. It was missing a few of the details to it, so staff would just recommend as a condition of approval that they submit that plan for staff review. The CSM before you tonight would create 3 lots. Currently, lots 16, 17, and 14 and 15 are located in this area. The hotel would be constructed on lot 1 of the CSM. There is some excess land from lot 16 that would be then given or transferred to lot 2 and 3 on the CSM. This was not in your packet. It was finalized late last week. Staff has had a chance to review it and has no concerns with it. Architectural design, the plans were revised based upon the comments from the Plan Commission. It does have more of an Italian look to it to kind of blend with the building that will be located southeast of this property. As I said before, the majority and mass of the building will be approximately 49 feet tall, and there will be architectural features that do extend to 66 feet tall. Once again, more elevations blending with the colors of the building to the southeast. And then finally, we have a 3D elevation showing what the facility would look like. It does have a Hyatt House and a Hyatt Place with the intent of having one of the facilities, and I forget which one, would be more of an extended stay type hotel, and the second type of wing of the hotel would be more of your typical night-by-night room rental. So this would have that catering towards more of that extended stay in the city, but then also typical room-by-room basis. Materials would be EIFS, brick, and stone veneer. Staff has no concerns with the proposed materials. We think they're high quality, and it fits with the project to the southeast of here. We did go through the findings of fact and find that it does meet all the requirements of the conditional use permit. I did recommend in my report to postpone action on this item. However, since we've received the CSM, I'm actually going to change that, what I had in my report, and actually staff is going to recommend that the Plan Commission approve the conditional use permit to allow an indoor commercial lodging land use and a 66-foot tall hotel on lots 16 and 17 in Liberty Business Park. Staff also recommends the Plan Commission approve the site plan to allow for the construction of a 230-room hotel to be located on lots 16 and 17 in Liberty Business Park with the following conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit a photometric plan for staff review. And 2, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit retaining wall details for staff review and approval. Those details weren't submitted in the plans. That's one of the things we just want to take a look at, see what the materials will be, and see what the fencing looks like on top of those. And finally, staff will recommend the Plan Commission recommend to the council approval of the certified survey map to create 3 lots located in Liberty Business Park.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. And before we take any other questions or comments, Mr. Gunlock, would you respond to the management of the water runoff during construction, please?
Yes, the stormwater from the site will flow basically to the northwest. There is a large detention basin already constructed to the northwest. The runoff will flow to that area. Prior to reaching that area, it will flow through a silt fence and also several rock check dams to slow the water down. There will be some grading done out there to direct the water to the existing east-west ditch line that drains into that detention basin. We have reviewed the erosion control plan. The erosion control plan is acceptable for the site. That answers the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gunlock. Thank you, Mr. Gunlock. Mr. Manley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob, I think that that Ms. Reiki also asked about the post-construction stormwater management, and I think is the standard 90% infiltration?
The standard is 90%. They have rain gardens that are being installed. There will be a rain garden to the northwest corner of the site. There will be another rain garden to the northeast corner of the site. The stormwater has been reviewed, and their infiltration that they will be getting is 90%.
Okay, and just in terms of the scale of this project, it looks to me, if I'm reading the CSM correctly, that the building that will, or the construction that will take place on Lot 1, that's about a 6-acre development site. How does that compare to other development sites like Epic?
Well, Epic is hundreds of acres, and they're typically, I think their underground parking garages probably cover in excess of 10 acres. I mean, each structure. This is a large site, but it is not as large as Epic. It is not as large as a subdivision where you develop 25 to 35 lots. So it's large as a building goes, but it's not so large that we haven't addressed issues before.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments, potential motions? Ms. Ritter?
The portion of the building that exceeds the height limit, is that, you said that was just architectural, there's no rooms or structure within that?
Mr. Sarah?
Yeah, the highest point will be 66 feet tall, and the majority of the building, and I can pull it back up here, will be 49, so that will exceed the height requirement by 4 feet. So the top of the roof of the last floor of the building will be at 49 feet. So the majority of the building will be at that 49 feet, then there'll be some architectural features going above that up to 66 feet. But the vast majority of it will be at approximately 49 feet, so 4 feet taller than what's allowed.
Other, Mr. Horsfall?
So none of the Epic buildings are more than 44 feet?
Mr. Sarah?
No, the last campus we looked at, Campus 4, I think the tallest architectural feature was over 100 feet. And that took a conditional use permit to exceed the height requirement. It was part of the group development and also a conditional use permit to go past that 45 feet.
Mr. Horsfall?
How far is Fortune Drive going to be finished as part of this initial? Is it going to go past that first driveway there?
Mr. Gunlock?
Yeah. Yeah, Fortune Drive will come in just past that first driveway to the south. It will not wrap around to the driveway to the west. That'll be sometime in the future.
Other questions, comments, Ms. Ritter?
But the entire parking lot will be constructed during that time, and are those 2 egress points enough for safety purposes?
Mr. Gunlock?
I feel they are. The driveways are 24 feet wide. Fire trucks can get in and out of there. I've looked at a straight truck, what's called a SU truck, and they can get in and out of the parking garage or into the parking lot. I've also looked at a small semi, and it can get around to the back of the building to the loading dock in the back.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments, or potential motions? Mr. Manley?
I want to make a motion. I want to make a motion, but I also just wanted to say, and I think I said this at the initial review last month, but I think that from an architectural standpoint, you guys have done a good job of, providing an attractive building that I think will make that development look pretty nice. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve or recommend approval to council the conditional use permit on lots 16 and 17 of Liberty Business Park to allow for the construction of a 4-story, 66-foot tall hotel at 846 Liberty Drive.
Just 1 second. We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritter. Questions or comments on the motion? Mr. Horsfall?
How many square feet is it going to be?
Mr. Sarah?
Did I miss that?
It's on that page.
Total square footage will be 193,000 square feet. That includes all levels, all floors to it.
It's funny because it's, we used to have to talk about big boxes and stuff like that, and I think the limit was 105. Was that what we talked about?
100 or 105, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments? We do have a motion before us. Just a comment, I agree, Mr. Manley beat me to the punch. I think it's a great looking facility. I like the idea of having some extended stay rooms. This will be a great addition to the community. Really looking forward to it. Seeing no other questions or comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion carries. We are now on agenda item 5B, which is the site plan approval. Questions, comments, motions?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Ritter?
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan to allow for the construction of a 231-room hotel to be located on lots 16 and 17 in Liberty Business Park, with the following conditions. One, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the occupant shall submit a photometric plan to the city staff for approval, review and approval. And two, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit retaining wall and fence details to staff for review and approval.
We have a motion by Ms. Ritter. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Horsfall. Questions or comments on the motion? Mr. Horsfall?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. We are now on agenda item 5C, which again would be a recommendation to the Common Council. Is there any motion? Mr. Manley?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a certified survey map to create 3 lots in Liberty Business Park to allow for the construction of a hotel.
We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second? Is there a second by Mr. Horsfall? Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion carries. So those, the prior 2 issues that we talked about, the recommendations to the Common Council will be on the agenda for next week, Monday. We are now moving to agenda item number 6, which is a public hearing on a zoning map amendment to rezone Lot 27 of Liberty Business Park located at 1135 Liberty Drive from the current suburban industrial zoning to the proposed suburban commercial zoning district. Do we have a motion to go into public hearing? We have a motion by Mr. Horsfall, seconded by Ms. Ritter. All those in favor of going into public hearing signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. We are in the public hearing stage. Mr. Sayre, if you would, please.
Request tonight is to rezone Lot 27 of Liberty Business Park to suburban commercial. It is currently zoned suburban industrial. This requires a public hearing, which we're in tonight, and it is also a recommendation to the Common Council.
We are in the public hearing stage. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Going for the 3rd time. Anyone that wishes to speak on this agenda item under public hearing? Seeing none, I would accept the motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion by Ms. Ritter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Manley. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. Mr. Sayre, anything to add?
Yes. So for sake of ease, I'll combine my report for the rezoning and site plan just to make the conversation easier. The applicant's requesting a zoning map amendment and also a site plan review to allow for the construction of a 17,000 square foot commercial building located at the northeast corner of Liberty Drive and County Highway M. The building will provide both office and retail space. So the first thing we did was reviewed the rezoning request. As I stated previously, the property currently is zoned suburban industrial, and the applicant's requesting to rezone the property to suburban commercial. The entire eastern side, for the most part, of Liberty Drive is zoned suburban industrial. The city's comprehensive plan identifies lands east of Liberty Drive in this area as non-residential land uses. The plan then goes into a long discussion about trying to limit the amount of commercial in this area in an effort to I guess, reinforce the retail land uses within the downtown and also along Verona Avenue. So that was the intention of the plan, but the plan does say that this is a non-residential land use area, which is rather ambiguous. Staff looked at it from the rezoning standpoint and does believe that retail and office uses in this location are appropriate. This is a hard corner, as it'd be called. There's a possible future traffic signal located at Liberty Drive and at County Highway M. So we think a commercial or more of a mixed use, as the applicant's proposing here, would be appropriate in this location. However, with that said, I think special consideration should be given to the design of the building and the look of it, which I'll get into in a few minutes here. From a bulk standpoint, the building itself on the screen does meet all the required zoning setbacks. There are 2 other setbacks that are required on the plat. There is a 42-foot Dane County highway setback from the county highway, and there's also a 48-foot ATC easement that runs along the property, and the easement is approximately in this dashed lined area. So no buildings are allowed in there, but parking areas or pavement would be allowed within that easement area. Parking, the applicant's proposing 89 parking spaces, which provides a parking ratio of 5 spaces per 1,000. That's a consistent ratio with other users and other buildings within the city. We can't provide a complete parking calculation at this time because users and tenants have not been named. As tenants come forward, they'll be required to meet the parking requirements, and some of the tenants, such as a possible restaurant use of some type, would be required to come back to the Plan Commission for a conditional use permit and review. But at this time, staff is comfortable with the 89 parking spaces on the property. Access, the applicant's proposing 2 access points. There'd be a right in, right out from Liberty Drive, and there'd also be a drive extended to Laser Street that would provide people with that left-hand turn back to head south on Liberty Drive and back to County Highway M. The access to Liberty Drive is actually situated at a point that was shown on the plat as a access area. Access to Liberty Drive on this property is restricted, except at this point here. And this is intended to be a shared access for this lot here and also the lot to the north as well. One of the concerns staff does have is the design of this access coming off of Liberty. There are retaining walls that are provided or shown in that access area. We also feel that this situation that has kind of how it's been designed will create a very challenging situation when the lot to the north is developed. It's going to be very difficult to make that left turn as you make a right off of Liberty, then make a hard left into that development to the north. It could be very challenging and possibly unsafe. So staff does have concerns with that and cannot support the design as it's shown today because, one, you have retaining walls that are within this access easement, and second, this intersection here will just be most likely a mess in the future if we approve it. So staff won't support that as designed. As I stated previously, uses have not been identified for this property right now. Most likely some will be permitted, some will be conditional use permit, so some will have to come back to the Plan Commission for review if they do require a conditional use permit. Drainage and stormwater plans have been reviewed by the city engineer. The applicant's providing a rain garden to the north. And at this time, staff has no concerns with the drainage plans. Landscaping, the ordinance requires approximately 1,100 points. The applicant's proposing 1,250. Staff has no concerns with the landscaping plan as submitted. Photometric plans were submitted to staff, and final reviews by staff were not completed. There's a few other minor details that have to be worked out by the applicant and their designer. If the Plan Commission decides to recommend approval tonight, I just would request that that be a condition of approval, that the photometric plan should be reviewed by staff and approved by staff prior to the issuance of building permits. From an architectural and design standpoint, the building will contain high-quality materials, including brick, stone veneer, and ephes. The intent of the building is to create a Italian look, themed more of Verona, Italy versus Verona, Wisconsin. This building will blend with the previously approved hotel that was discussed tonight. Staff has no concerns with the architecture. I actually think the architecture is very nice and, quite honestly, phenomenal. I'm actually quite impressed by the applicant submitted this, so I do appreciate that. The one comment and concern that I continue to have is that the building, I believe, is still too far from the roadway. I think you have this gorgeous looking building that will be set back more than 80 feet from the road. This is actually the entrance to Liberty Business Park. This is one of the most important corners as you come into this business park and also as you come into the city. As it's designed right now, the focus of this project is going to be on the parking lot just because of how far the building is set back. I think the building needs to come closer to the road, or at least most likely up to where the setback line for that ATC setback is. That's about 46 feet, which is still a considerable distance off the road, but it would then at least be more visible to passerbys, people passing by, and also would help frame that corner. I think it's as designed right now. I know I cannot support it as it's designed right now. I think this corner is too important to put a building in this location like this. I think it needs to be closer. I think if the building is pushed up to that dash line, and if anything, at a minimum, having parking here or most likely eliminated, I think that's probably the best option from a design standpoint. And I also think the building needs to be pushed closer to Liberty Drive as well. Like I said, I think it's a gorgeous building, and I think we're hiding it right now. I think we should show it off and have it be the entrance and focal point to coming into this project. So with that, I recommend that we hold the public hearing, which we did tonight, but postpone action on both the zoning map amendment and site plan review, and direct the applicant to revise the plans to relocate the drive-through to the east side of the building if possible, or eliminate it, and move the building south and relocate the retaining walls and rain gardens so they do not impact the access easement to the north. Like I said, I think the building is in a good spot. I just think the site plan still needs some work before staff can give a positive recommendation on this.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Sayre. The applicant is here this evening, and does the applicant wish to address some of the concerns that were stated to this point? And there may be other questions, but I thought you may want to address these right now.
Yes, my name is Jerry Berkwin, and I'm with Dimension 4. We're the architects for the project. And you can see by where we did the design, we actually agree with Adam. We want to get actually a nice focus, a nice feature building out toward the front, because it kind of establishes the character. You know, the owner of the building on the second floor, he'll have his offices there, and I think you kind of see that deck coming out in the secondary, which will be used by the tenants on the second floor as well as the tenants on the first floor. So we're trying to accomplish, I think, the same things as Adam's trying to do, as we're trying to do at the city, so I think everybody's got the same goal. You know, I do think the front of the building or whatever needs to kind of face out toward McKee and out toward Liberty Drive. You know, I think we want that image or whatever. I think we do have some leeway, as Adam mentioned a little bit, on the like parking stalls and drive toward the front there. We do want to keep a certain amount of parking stalls because the front door is going to be in that, and this is Wisconsin, so we're going to have bad weather and gray for weather for quite a part of the year. So I think we do need to keep that. I think we do have a little ability to kind of slide ahead. And like I said, maybe we get rid of some of the parking on one of the sides, so it's just kind of loaded maybe on the one side, which is kind of underneath the overhead power lines. We can move ahead a little bit. I do want to stay out of that clearance of the electrical overhead lines. You just don't want to get too close or pushed right next to that on that portion too. The other part was the, you know, the restaurant is going to be at that end, and they need the focus. We want the activity of the people and the patios and the decks out on that end. The other end of the building actually is a karate and yoga studio. So he wants an outdoor area, but his is more, he wants more of a quiet kind of area rather than being like a focus area out toward that corner itself. So I think it's how do we work the restaurant area on that side. The window on the end there is actually, it's a pickup window. So we're not doing, it's not a drive-through. So we're not actually going through that you pull up to the speaker and place your order. It's, you know, you electronically order by email or whatever ahead of time, and rather than parking your car, getting out of your car, coming in or whatever, you know, you call ahead and you just come in and they give you your order at that point. So it's not like a long wait, and it's not like there's a, again, the speaker box out in that area. It's just a pickup window. You'll see some of those kind of like at Outbacks in some of those areas where you're just doing that type of portion for the building itself. So I think we want to do some things with the patio and some of those things on the corner there, but flipping the building would be hard to do just for the rents. And also, even if the pickup window's on the other end, it's just returning kind of the other way, so we start to eat a little more land then, actually just get the drive up next to the window itself, whatever. So I think we can hopefully keep this in, but kind of maybe even downplay it a little more, maybe landscape it a little more, blend in that area. You know, maybe we pick up a little more of the patio area out toward that front on the first floor. We are taking the sidewalk out to that corner, you know, so we want a direct connection actually from the street kind of coming into that area to that corner itself. You know, one thing, the way the grades work on that site, we actually already, our first floor of our building is actually down a couple of feet from what the corner of that intersection already is. Mm-hmm. So some of the things are already kind of screening as we're coming into that area to start with. So we don't really want to get it pushed down in there any further, but I think there's enough landscaping and grade drop there, even with a few cars that might be parked toward the front there. I think we can probably do a little more heavy screening on that actually will look over those actually into more like the entrance to the building itself in that area. So our goals are the same as yours, and what we want to do there. Ours is just that flipping the building kind of from the users that want to go in that building, we'd probably have to start over and try and find some different tenants for that building, because you know the restaurant folks really, that corner wants to have a restaurant. We want to have it in that corner, so I think it really needs to be in that area. And the karate and yoga guy really is more of a quiet end to the building, really wants to be more toward the east end of the building rather than the active end of the building. So I think those are just some general comments. Ryan Quam is here actually from Quam Engineering too, so I think some of the questions maybe on the access to the site and some of that stormwater and some of that he can address, at least give you some our input or thoughts on that also.
Sure.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Quam with Quam Engineering. Some of the issues that Adam brought up related to that retaining wall and that rain garden, we didn't address those at this point just because we wanted to see if there's going to be a minor revision or if there's going to be a major revision. But I would consider that a minor revision. We have options of either eliminating that wall by removing 4 or 5 of those parking stalls in that area and maybe adding some parking stalls over to the east side of the building. Or we could also narrow up the distance between the sidewalk and the building. Right now there's 10 feet proposed in there, but if we shifted the building a little bit towards Highway M, narrowed those 10-foot stalls to our terraces to 8-foot or some foot terraces, we could gain enough space to get that intersection to work and the rain garden to work without interfering with that easement. The third option, which we probably maybe wouldn't explore until that northern lot develops, would be to modify that access easement entirely. I think until we know what's going to happen with that property to the north and the east, we don't know if it'll necessarily be used, but I think we can modify the current site to allow flexibility to keep it or possibly in the future eliminate it. And then if you have any other questions, let me know.
Mr. Manley?
Yeah, I've got a question about the access from Liberty Drive. In terms of the radius for turning into that, you know, if you wanted to visit the south end of that building and park on the south end, it just looks like an incredibly sharp turn that you have to make right there. And I just wonder if that's enough
Mr.
to navigate that.
Mr. Gunlock?
I put a turning radius on this for a passenger vehicle, and it'll make it.
Okay.
They can get around that.
I'm thinking of Pasquale's, and when you enter that parking lot and go right, I've actually run over the median because it's so sharp. And I don't know, it just struck me as kind of the same situation here, but if you think there's enough to make it.
Yeah, I think at Pasquale's, they have an island that comes out there.
Yeah,
and it's kind of
it does.
squared off. Well, here you have a radius, on this, and the radius is, you know, probably a 20-foot radius. And like I said, I put the turning template for a passenger vehicle on here, and it will come around the corner there. So.
And then the other question I had is, will the tenants of this building, will it be set up so that you can enter from either the north side of the building or the south side of the building, or will those be different tenants on the north side as opposed to the south side? Because I think the answer to that question impacts how much parking you can eliminate on the south side. Because nobody's going to want to park on the north side and then walk around to the south side.
Now, the tents are set up that they run from through the building, like from the north to the south or whatever. So everyone's got a front door, which is for guests, clients, whoever to use on that side. But then also there will be like a second door, I'll call it the back door, but a second door would actually be for like employees and staff for service and deliveries and those type of things. They can come through that side of the building itself.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Ritter?
One of the questions that I have is about the drive-up window. Is that a crucial piece of the building for that tenant?
Hi, I'm Dean Slavey, the owner of KSW Construction. The tenant I've talked to it's Wisconsin. So that drive up there is kind of a drive up, a pickup window is somewhat crucial to them for people getting in and out of their cars. Now, what I was told from the franchise, and it's a lot of texting, and you text your order in. and you pay for it online, and you come by and you pick it up, so you don't even have to get out of your car. So the deliveries, the morning one is a big one for them, for people coming and going. So it is kind of critical at this point. I haven't had a conversation whether, you know, it can go bye-bye or not. I kind of wanted to get the input up here first.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Heinzen?
Sure, I have a question. Maybe this is for Adam first, but is there anything that would prevent us from putting into place the restriction of parking along the road like we have on Verona Road and I guess Dairy Queen and the Orange Leaf and those buildings which look very nice, but it, you know, right against the road. Similar to this, they have, you know, the tenants are from one side of the building all the way to the other side of the building. And that would potentially allow us to have a building that you could see without any parking in front of it.
Mr. Sarah?
So you're suggesting that the building, there'd be no parking between the building and County Highway M? Is that what you're suggesting? Similar to what the buildings out on, I mean, that's something you could put in place if you want to do that. That's a requirement that you could put that in place as part of the site plan review. That's possible, yes.
Do you know how the size of these buildings, how they compare to the ones that are in front of the Fleet Farm or Farm and Fleet?
This one is probably bigger. This one's 17,000 square feet, you know, 2 stories. I think the footprint's probably about 8,000 square feet. So the one with the Little Caesars in it is approximately 7,000, 8,000 square feet. So I guess in talking through it now, it's probably about the same size, a little bit bigger than that.
As far as the footprint?
The footprint, obviously going 2 stories, you're getting a lot more height and mass to it.
Okay.
It's just a further question, Mr. Sayre. So if some of the parking were eliminated on the south side of the building, would we require, according to our number of parking stalls per square footage, would they be required to add stalls to the north of the building then?
Yes, there need to be additional parking, probably in the north and possibly looking at the east side as well.
Other question, Mr. Manley?
Yeah, I meant to mention it before, but I want to echo Adam's comments in terms of the quality of the architecture of the building. I think it's very unique and very attractive. And so I think that this building would be a great addition to Verona and our community, and I'm pleased to hear that you already have tenants that are interested in occupying this building. And I can appreciate Adam's comments about wanting to move the building forward, especially when you've got a building that's as good looking as this one. Maybe you want to show it off, but in terms of completely eliminating the parking on the south end, while I think it makes sense to do that along Verona Avenue because that's kind of the gateway to our city, and you know, we did that design overlay because we wanted to make sure that any new or modified development was very high quality. I don't know if the same conditions exist in a business park that warrants that kind of a restriction on land use. And my concern is that if we eliminated all of that parking on the south end and it's got to be made up somewhere else, and we're already pushing the limits of the access easement, I'm just not sure where it goes.
Ms. Ritter?
I would agree with Mr. Manley, and I would also say that I like the fact that it gives a little bit of buffer between that busy highway and a restaurant that includes a patio and the terrace as well. So I would be more in favor of keeping the parking. I like the thought of maybe moving it a little bit closer to the corner just to make it more of a focal point because it is a gorgeous building. But as far as the parking goes, I'm okay with it.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Horsfall?
For Mr. Gunlock, is the location of the driveway based on the distance away from County Trunk Highway M? I mean, does it have to be that far to the north?
Yeah, on the plat itself, Liberty Drive has, is restricted for access. And we left one spot at the middle of the two, or the lot line, to get an access easement in there to those two lots for traffic coming to the north.
Great, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Manley, did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about timing, because if you've got tenants that want to be in this building, I assume that you want to get going on construction sooner rather than later. And I'm wondering about how we can facilitate our review in a way that lets you keep your construction schedule, whatever that may be. And I wonder if the applicant were to come back with a few changes that are consistent with, you know, kind of what the feedback that the commission has given, is this something that we would see at the August meeting, and is that soon enough? If you submitted a revised site plan that included, you know, like Ms. Ritter said, just maybe slightly moving the building closer to the intersection. And if that was reviewed in August by the Plan Commission?
Yeah, we have, a lot of the tenants we have, including the lower tenants, are on a timeline that they like to be in a certain time, but the upper tenants is going to be, David's having an office up there, and then Slater Associates, myself, we have an office up there, and there's another lawyer firm that's we're working with right now that'd like to have an office up there. But putting it off a month, if it's not my major things we come back to and do some minor changes, I think that would be fine from our aspect. But one thing I'd like to ask is if we could get the zoning done tonight, because I do have other tenants in other buildings over there that I gotta be able to tell them that we are zoned for this, so I can get them
Mm-hmm.
and start getting LOIs with them and put them in place. If I could get that tonight, that'd be very helpful.
And
Mr.
if I could ask a follow-up question of staff. We're looking at a conditional use permit for this site, correct?
Mr. Sarah?
No, you're looking at a rezoning tonight to rezone the property. I can say I don't have any concerns with the zoning of it, the rezoning standpoint. My concern was with the site plan of it, the site plan itself. So the conditional use would come back when the tenant was ready to come forward with the request. That's when it would come back for the conditional use. So this is just site plan for the building and rezoning to suburban commercial.
Further questions or comments? Just to recap a little bit from what I heard and from how I feel, it sounds like the applicant is willing to take a look at shifting the building a little bit to the south. And in order to accomplish that, if the very southern portion of the parking, those parking stalls, would need to be relocated to elsewhere on the site, I think if we were to accomplish that and agree to that tonight, I would think we would have consensus to move forward. And I'm seeing nods from the applicant, and does anyone want to speak to that issue?
Yeah, I think we're fine, and like I said, on behalf of the owner, David, I've talked to him a couple times over the last couple days. We want to work with the city. We want to be part of the city. We want to help develop this out there, and if this makes a little bit happier compromise for both parties, we're fine doing that. I just don't want to be held up on, like I said, the zoning, so I can get moving with the other applicants on LOIs and their buildings they want to do over there too.
So Jerry, did you have something to add?
So if I'm understanding right, what we're talking about is actually, we'll get rid of these stalls down here, we'll slide this ahead, we'll pick these stalls up, probably along over on this side then, since I already got a drive there anyhow, so we can take advantage of that drive or whatever, and I think we can probably accomplish that.
Either there and/or to the north.
To the north too, right?
Yeah. And I would be fine with giving approval on that tonight, with the condition that it would have to, contingent upon approval by staff, that it wouldn't even have to come back to us. I would be fine with that, comfortable with that.
Mhm.
Ms. Ritter?
Are you at all open to moving it a little bit to the west, just a little bit?
Yeah, I was looking at this, I think we do have a little bit of leeway, so I think we'll probably try and gain a little bit this direction also. This one I know we can do, this one I think we'll probably do a minor adjustment to pick up a little more in that direction.
Okay.
But I think we can probably do a little more actually in this corner then too, and just kind of some of the development in that area.
Mr. Manley?
That boulevard on the left, or I'm sorry, the west end of the, does that have to be the green space there in between Liberty Drive and the parking lot? Does that need to be that wide?
I wasn't following, are you talking?
Yeah, that area.
No, I think there's probably, because we've got landscaping both ends, I think we can probably actually adjust that and probably still do the landscaping, but we can probably pull that over a little bit to pick up a few feet in that area. And then we can get this way and this way both, pulling all out toward the front.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, other questions or potential motions? I think we have consensus from what I was hearing. I would ask, Mr. Sayre, can you help us out with a motion so we make sure we're all on the same page?
So you'll need two motions tonight. The first motion would be the recommendation to the Common Council for the zoning map amendment. And the second motion would be for the site plan to allow for the construction of a 17,000 square foot commercial building on lot 27 of Liberty Business Park. And I believe the conditions would be removing one row of parking on the south side of the building and shifting that to the east and or north, and then also making some adjustments to the drive-through on the west side. I think that was what was discussed tonight. And I could be wrong, but that's probably the nutshell of what the motion would look like.
Mr. Burns?
Yeah, I would suggest that we add to the motion the language that a revised site plan be submitted for review and approval by city staff, city planner, and city engineer.
Ms. Ritter?
Would that be for the second motion?
Yes.
I'll make the first motion.
Okay.
I'll give it a try.
Ms. Ritter?
I'd like to make a motion that the commission recommend approval to the Common Council to approve the zoning map for Lot 27 of Liberty Business Park.
We have a motion by Ms. Ritter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heinzen. Question or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion is carried. That will also be on the agenda for Monday evening. We have a second motion. Is there a second, Mr. Manley?
I'm going to take a stab at it here. So if anybody thinks I'm wrong, please let me know. But I will make a motion to approve the site plan for Lot 27 of Liberty Business Park located at 1135 Liberty Drive to allow for the construction of a 17,000 square foot commercial building with the contingency that one row of parking will be removed on the south end and shifted to either the east or the north, and that the building be shifted to the west a little bit, as much as can be accommodated.
Photometric plan.
And photometric plans
Submitted to the
city staff for approval.
for final approval.
Yep.
We have a motion by Mr. Manley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritter. Discussion on the motion? Mr. Horsfall?
Yeah, just, Adam, you okay with the driveway on the north? Is that, with Bob's comments, does that relieve some of your angst about it, or is there?
We're going to have to deal with it probably when the site to the north develops. I mean, I guess I'm fine with it, with the understanding that the developer knows and the plan commission knows that we're probably gonna have to make some adjustments to that when that lot to the north goes. And I mean, I still think that right turn going in there, and even coming out, it's tighter than what I'd like to see. But I think with the understanding that we can make modifications to that in the future when that north goes, I think we can probably work something out if we had to.
Thanks.
Further questions? If not, I will call the question on the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. And that motion carries. We will see you Monday evening. Next, we have a discussion on the North Neighborhood Plan, review of a conceptual future land use map for the North Neighborhood Plan. Mr. Sarah, if you would, please.
So if you recall, at our last June Plan Commission meeting, probably well past 11 o'clock, we briefly talked about the North Neighborhood concept map, and I did my best to go back, take your comments that I heard, and just try to modify the plan. In general, I did try to make the plan more general, I guess I'd say. We did expand some commercial along County Highway PD, so we stretched that out. In the process, we shifted around some of the multifamily, had the multifamily behind the commercial to kind of create that transitional buffer. Also dropped some of the more of the residential roads on here. We left in place the circles for future access points, and also what we envision possible road layouts that may occur in the future as well too. So to kind of sum it up, we have the kind of yellow residential area. That's just your typical suburban residential. We have a lighter brown color that we're calling wooded residential. These are lots that are existing in larger, or lots that are right now are heavily wooded. So the intent is having some larger lots in there than typical city lots to help preserve the trees, and just to kind of make sure we're not going to clear cut those areas and have those somewhat preserved on larger lots. The darker brown is multifamily. The green areas include parks and stormwater. There is a large stormwater retention area located here that is to accommodate back-to-back 100-year stormwater events in the area. This is a closed basin, if you recall, so it just does create some stormwater challenges. The red area is recommended as commercial and possible mixed-use areas. Mixed use would be looking at commercial on the first floor, and most likely apartments on the second or third floor. The lighter blue areas are existing church parcels that would remain, and the school is also in the process of looking at an approximately 13-acre site for a future elementary school. What it kind of comes down to is we have approximately, say, 18 to 22% of the area is planned as multifamily. The rest would be planned as residential, your typical single-family residential. So that's actually scaling back from what we looked at the last Plan Commission meeting, based upon some comments that I heard. I think what's before you tonight is a good starting point for hopefully to have me go forward and kind of hopefully wrap this plan up in the near future. The roads, I think, are emphasized as conceptual. The key point on the roads are the access points, the purple circles. Those are access areas that we know we can get access and that we need access. Kind of back to the multifamily and single family, I think if there's a desire for more multifamily, I think we probably try to encourage that in the commercial areas as a mixed-use project of some type. Probably not looking at straight apartments, but we could look at doing possible more multi as a mixed-use project along the commercial areas, and try to create more of an identity and character to this neighborhood. But with that said, I guess I'm open to any feedback or comments that you have. As we talked about last time, the buffer requirement that is in the agreement with the City of Madison is still removed from this plan. As I said last time, staff and City of Madison continue to have conversations, and we've agreed in principle that that's not the best use of land in that area. So staff from Verona and Madison continue to recommend that buffer be eliminated. We'll continue to look at stormwater requirements in the area when plans are submitted. but we attempted to identify at least the larger stormwater pond that we know is required and has come out of past stormwater management studies in that area. But most likely there would be some smaller ponds kind of scattered throughout the site to accommodate stormwater too. I guess with that though, I'm open to hearing whatever comments, feedback, suggestions, concerns that you have. My goal is hopefully we can maybe wrap this up tonight, at least from the map standpoint, and then I can get direction to finish off the rest of this plan, most likely come back in about 2 months. Once that's done, our intention as staff is then to go forward to CARPC and start the urban service area amendment process for this area of the city, and make sure that coincides with the utilities being run down the road in 2016, and hopefully having projects hooked into this area in 2017.
Thank you, Adam. Questions, comments, feedback? Mr. Horsfeld?
I see Zing Drive going all the way through to PD. Has that always been the case? For a north, I assume it's going to be kind of a north-south collector along with Hemlock. But Tamarack kind of doesn't.
Mr. Sayer or Mr. Gunlock?
Yeah, I think we looked at it kind of lining up with the intersections to the north there. I'll once again say it probably won't be a straight line as shown on the plan here. The roads are going to move, and you're going to need some traffic calming in there, so you probably will have some movement to that road or have traffic calming pieces in place. But I guess when we looked at it, we saw that there was these roads kind of stubbed to the north there, and it made sense to put those connections through. You know, how that occurs between the two dots is probably going to be up for debate as individual plans come forward. But I think we want those connections in some fashion going into this neighborhood. But they'll move around once specific plans are submitted.
I guess question 2 is, which dot is where the golf course is?
Yeah, the middle one right here. So you have the first one here that lines up with the Andrus and Drager property. This dot here would line up with the golf course directly across from the golf course.
Thanks.
Other questions, comments, feedback? Ms. Ritter?
For under the bullet point transportation, you talk about 3 access points off of County Highway M, and one of them being at Stony Ridge Circle instead of Einikin. I guess I'm questioning a lighted intersection at Stony Ridge instead of Einikin, where Stony Ridge has, I don't know exactly how many houses they have back there, but let's say 15, where Einikin has many, many more than that.
Yeah,
Right. Sure.
right now Einikin is a full intersection. I mean, it could be signalized in the future. I think the current plans with the County Highway M reconstruction have it not signalized, but I believe it would be built that it could be signalized in the future. The thought at Stony Ridge was with the amount of commercial going in there, it needs to be signalized just for the commercial development in that area. But I think with the Einikin one, I think as projects come forward to the west, that's probably going to be a conversation that we'll have to have as we see traffic counts.
Go ahead, Ms. Ritter.
My comment on that is I agree that there would be a lot of traffic coming out of that retail and commercial area, which would make it even more difficult for those who live in that subdivision off of Einikin to make a left-hand turn into Verona. And granted, I know that they can go around and go down Enterprise Drive, but I would just want, us to look at that a little bit more closely.
I guess it's a question for Bob. I know Bob's involved in those County Highway M meetings for quite some time. Bob, has that question or comment come up before?
It hasn't come up before, but there will be a 24-foot wide median out here. So if somebody is coming out of Einikin and wants to turn left to the south, they can pull into the island area and stop if there's a car coming and get partway across. The intent was not to signalize it at this time. At such time that the road continues to the west, it may then be signalized.
Okay.
Because then you would have conflicting traffic. I mean, right now, in the immediate future, it's going to be a T intersection.
Okay, because on the map here, it shows it as a,
Yeah, but
full.
in the future, when the road gets extended to the west, which may not happen for, 5 to 7 years.
sure.
So
Okay.
that's why we left it as just a stop intersection there.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, as long as we're talking transportation, would you remind me, on PD west of M, the reconstruction of PD is going to happen in 2015, 16, and 17, is that correct?
It's the same time, how far west? All the way to Nine Mound?
Nine Mound, isn't that in a 3-year?
That's 2018.
2018? When it will be completed?
The intent is to start it, I believe, in 2018. The
Okay.
construction year was 2018, but there has to be a consultant, and that road will be the same as County Trunk Highway M. You have to select a consultant. It's gonna be using federal dollars, so you have to design it in accordance with the DOT requirements, and the intent right now is to have it built in 2018, but that timeline could slip a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, other comments? Mr. Manley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Overall, I think that what's proposed looks pretty good. I just had a few questions and suggestions, or comments and questions, but in terms of the location of the multifamily, I think it makes a lot of sense to locate that as much as possible, to be a transition or a buffer in between the single family and the commercial development. I think that's, something that was talked about, and I'm glad to see that on the plan. Another thing that I thought I had, in terms of the location of the proposed elementary school, maybe that's very, very site-specific because of a certain parcel of property. I don't know, but my thought was that if that wasn't the case, if you could abut that with the park green space just to the south, and maybe shift some of that single family to the north, that would be a better flow for the land uses. The other comment I had in terms of the single family housing that's shown on the map is that the wooded residential, which is being described for this plan as being larger lots, just looking at the area on the north one that abuts with Highway PD, you've got Windswept Way in there already, and some very large lots taking up a good chunk of that area. And there's also another property owner to the west that has a pretty big chunk of property, and I'm just not sure how much you can really squeeze into that area successfully. I guess maybe I'd like to see. I mean, and I like the idea of having wooded neighborhoods and trying to preserve that, but I think some of the areas that are shown in yellow should be some larger lots as well, and you could do that in conjunction with some of the stormwater basins, much like Gateway Estates has some really nice large lots around that. I guess DNR now calls it a navigable waterway, and just other areas in the yellow where you would have lots that would be big enough to have a 3-car garage, and some of the housing stock that I think we don't have a whole lot of in Verona. So those would be my thoughts. Otherwise, I think great plan, and thanks for the work you've put into it, Adam.
Thank you. Mr. Sayre?
one comment on the school site was, we've worked with the school district on kind of selecting the location. They know it's gonna move a little bit, but I'll mention that back to the school district and see what they say. I know they wanna make sure they're comfortable with the location of it, and obviously it's challenging as it goes south, you get closer to an existing elementary school. So initially the school actually started north of where this is shown on here, and it's kind of slowly kind of shifted to the south as it's gone on, but I will share that with the school district and see what their thoughts are on that.
Mr. Heinzen?
Sure, thanks. I think the neighborhood concept plan looks really very good. I do have a couple questions. One of them had to do with actually the school site. And I was going to make the opposite comment, which is it looks really close to where Cross Country, or Country View rather, already is. But if the school district has, weighed in on this, they certainly know a lot more than I do as to where they should put the schools. But I just recognize that it seems pretty close. Is the topography here challenging? And my recollection, at least, is when you come in from the north into the city, is that right now where the housing ends at Gateway, there's a pretty significant drop. And I guess two questions on topography, and that is one of them. And the other one is, as you move towards Nine Mound, the one road appears, and again, I don't know exactly what's out there, but it appears to be going through what is right now a gravel pit. And just curious how, what kind, if this is so far in advance that things will change sort of dramatically, or if the topography has been taken into consideration in connection with that as well.
Mr. Sayre?
Yeah, so there are some challenging grades, especially on this parcel here, which is the one just south of, if you extended Einiken, a straight line from Einiken on the south side there, it goes up pretty significantly. So yeah, there are some grade challenges in there, and we've spoken with that property owner, and he's well aware that there are some significant challenges there. I think for the purposes of this map and trying to be general with it, we didn't want to start pointing out, here are all the small challenges we could have. I think there's also some as you go west into this area too. I think you have some grades in there, especially from the roads and stuff. As projects are submitted, we're going to take a close look at that and see, maybe changes need to occur at that time if it's not feasible, or at whatnot. So there aren't any major challenges until you really hit the quarry. I mean, that obviously then you're going off a cliff. The long-term plan is to keep that as open space. I think the intention of showing a road, at least going through there, is it's a connection that the city and staff has identified as an important future connection at some point. I know Epic has identified that as a future connection they would like to see made, especially for bicycles. In the process of designing Nine Mound Road, we've identified this as kind of the middle point of where that intersection could come into it, so we're taking that into consideration right now as that roadway is designed, making sure that at least we have that option available for us. When that happens, I mean, I think it's probably a good guess. Who pays for it is the other obvious million-dollar question too. But I think from a planning purposes, we need to at least show that in there as a reliever route to get cars off of PD, because if we can get people in this neighborhood, especially people that aren't on vehicles, off a county highway, I think it'd be good for everybody long-term from a safety standpoint. But there will be challenges in completing that road. There's a good chance it may just be stubbed for a while and sit there. But at least we have it in place, have it on a plan that if we do have the opportunity for funding or assistance, we have it on a plan that's already been taken forward and approved. And they usually smile upon that when they look at grants and requests for funding when roads are put through that way.
Go ahead, Mr. Heinz.
Sure, I had just one additional comment or a question, and it's whether or not in preparing the concept and deciding or looking into where the multifamily should be and commercial mixed use, if some thought has gone into where the Madison bus routes go right now, and how close those routes might be to where we decide that the multifamily housing and the commercial should go.
Mr. Sayre?
So there are no bus routes through this area right now. I think probably in the foreseeable future you could see one coming down M. If anything, it would probably take this major east-west road this way. That's going to be a larger road with a wider right-of-way, possibly even with a boulevard section. I would anticipate you'd have a bus stop here in that area. Just because you have the multifamily within a short walking distance, you have the commercial within a short walking distance. You then have the opportunity for that bus to pick people up and head back to whichever way it's going east, or obviously take people to the Epic campus. So for me, that's the most logical spot for a bus stop. It's located near the multifamily, it's located near the commercial, so it's located next to the two major traffic drivers.
Ms. Ritter?
I just have a quick question. Just as a comment for staff, I think this is I think you took what we talked about at our last meeting and synthesized it into this plan, and I think it looks great. I agree with the comments about the school. If it could come a little bit south, just a little bit, because that residential piece in there doesn't fit with me. But my question is about what are the current plans with, and maybe I missed something in a meeting along the way, with Nine Mound. Now there was talk about stubbing it off. There was talk about moving Northern Lights over and making kind of a new road. What is the current thought right now with that roadway?
Nine Mound will be reconstructed to a 4-lane highway on its existing alignment.
Okay.
We will go up to PD. PD will be a major intersection. It'll be the Nine Mound coming into PD will be relocated to the west slightly. The curve at PD will also be flattened, and PD will be reconstructed to 4 lanes up to Woods Road. And then in 2018, thereabouts, the rest of PD to County Trunk Highway M will be widened to 4 lanes.
Okay.
And at the south end of Nine Mound, it's going to go to the west onto Epic property, away from those existing properties out there.
Okay. Can I?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And that intersection there, currently, is the thought a lighted intersection, roundabout, jug handle, tunnels?
The intersection, Northern Lights, as Northern Lights comes north, it will be extended north, and what I believe will happen is Nine Mound will probably, as it gets past, Nine Mound on its new alignment will be called Northern Lights. And then we will have a cul-de-sac that comes up and serves those properties to the existing properties to the east, and that'll be Nine Mound Road. So Nine Mound would get cul-de-saced off up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cross-country road, Northern Lights intersection would be signalized, because Hubble Road from Epic will come into that intersection also from the west.
Right.
So that would be a signalized intersection. At existing Nine Mound and Cross Country Road, I believe right now we will have as through traffic, but coming north or coming south on what is Nine Mound now will be a stop condition. At night, when you come back into Verona, and if you come down what we would then call Northern Lights into the lighted intersection, as you make a left turn there, and want to make another left that comes, or another right that comes south on Nine Mound, you would have a free flow, yield only intersection there. There would be a right turn lane.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I think we talked briefly about the connection going through the neighborhood into and connecting with Nine Mound. I'm glad to see that on the map. I think we need to continue to show that on the map. We need to continue to say that at some point, if it doesn't happen right away, that it does go through, because I think that connection is important. And I think once some streets are built in there, and if it's stubbed off, the people that are living on the area where it's stubbed off may not want to see it go through. But I really think that connection is extremely crucial to the neighborhood for many reasons. And that's why I'm glad to see it in the plan, and I want us to make sure that it stays there. Other questions or comments? We're not taking any action on this evening, but if there is additional feedback, certainly we would like to know that at this point. No other feedback? Okay. Then we have one other agenda item, and that is Mr. Sarah thought he could give some planning department updates, and if there's any questions, he can respond to those. So, Mr. Sarah.
I guess I just put this on there. We approve and look at a lot of projects. Some get built, some don't get built, some are just still kind of hanging out there. Do you have any questions for me of the status of any projects, or, because I get questions all the time of where that's at, what's this at, and I just thought this would be a good time just to, so you get to ask me 4 million questions about what's going on with certain projects that you've seen before and haven't been built.
Any questions for Mr. Sarah? Mr. Heinzen?
I'm going to jump ahead of you then, Janie. Sorry about that.
Jump ahead.
I'm just curious about the prospects of the hotel across from Monty's.
Sure. The city actually approved a agreement with the developer a couple weeks ago at the council meeting. They completed the land swap with the land purchase with the DOT. I spoke with Lee Fischel today about that project. I think he's closing on the loan for do that this week, is my understanding. Their intention is to start hopefully within the month. So it's moving forward. It took longer just from a variety of lending issues that are out there now, and money's hard to get. But yes, it is moving forward, and you should see some earth moving within a month, I would imagine.
Ms. Ritter?
Sure, I have actually two. The first one is the one, I don't know the name of the street, the one by the bike trail where they had the restaurant, I think apartment mixed use piece. And that, because I noticed the house, that old house that was there is no longer there, that's correct. And then the second one is it Egg Source that was going over by Farm and Fleet?
So the first one is the Velocity project at 9 Mountain in Paoli. I spoke with the owner, architect, a week or two ago, and they are in the process of pulling their final plans together. It's taken a little bit longer to establish a tenant in that lower level of the building. I know initially they had looked at doing a restaurant in there. Not sure if that's still going to be feasible just from a marketability standpoint, but they're looking at trying to find a commercial tenant in there, in which I believe they are having some good conversations right now as we speak. So I'm slightly optimistic that project will be coming back some point this year. I know they want to start construction this year, but I know they're finalizing their lease with that commercial tenant right now as we speak. So if they get that finalized, they can go to the bank and get their loan and take care of all that. So if the house has come down, the shed is coming down right now, and once they clear the site, then they'll be ready to go. But I believe that will hopefully come back this year. Egg Source, my understanding in speaking with representatives of Egg Source is that I believe Minitube or Egg Source acquired each other. They're now one company. And with that acquisition, I know they're looking at doing some consolidation. So that the project on the east side of the city will probably not happen just because of the consolidation and them merging together as one company. And like I said, I forget who bought out who, but someone was bought out. So the Egg Source project that was proposed won't be happening on the east side of the city.
Mr. Heinzen?
Sure, just to follow up on the Velocity project, it's unlikely then to be a restaurant or similar, I guess, food and drink establishment?
I don't think so. That's the impression I'm getting from them. I've sent a few people their way as well too, and I know it just hasn't worked out from a traffic standpoint, I think numbers standpoint, and a variety of things. So I think they're just taking a look at whether users could potentially go there, which, like I said, I'm optimistic knowing who they're talking with that something may be worked out and would be a good thing for the city. So, but I think they took a look at the restaurant use and it just wasn't as strong as they had hoped. I think if they could still find someone, they would, but they also want to go forward with the project and at least get it built. So they're fine tuning that, and I know they're looking at the actual building itself and trying to probably take a look at the spaces and reshuffle some of the spaces around to accommodate this potential user as well too. So hopefully coming back shortly.
Mr. Manley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Adam, Are there any proposed single-family developments that are under consideration right now that have not been yet approved?
I'm in conversations with one person who's interested in doing a project. There's a lot of interest in, well, there's actually a few projects I've heard interest in, but they're all speculative at this point. Nothing I see on the horizon in the near future, though. So I wouldn't hold your breath for something coming forward, just because all the projects have some variety of issues and challenges with them, without getting into details and locations. But I don't see any new single family coming forward.
And phase 6 of Scenic Ridge is already underway, under construction.
Yes.
So really, Cathedral Point is kind of the only single family that's really left to fill in it. Is that correct?
You have Cathedral Point, whatever's left in Scenic Ridge, a scattering of lots elsewhere in the city, and then you have Hometown Grove, which was approved, I think, last month at the Plan Commission. Beyond that, I don't see any on the horizon.
So when we look to growing our tax base, at least in the near term, it sounds like we're going to need to rely on commercial.
Yes.
It's part of the reason, Mr. Manley, that we're working on the north neighborhood plans so that we can get that in the works. And we know that in phase 6 of Scenic Ridge, if not all the lots, almost all the lots have been sold. I think some of them may have been sold to builders, but there really aren't a lot of lots left except for Cathedral Point. Other questions? Any other updates you want from Mr. Sayer or any other staff? If not, the only other item before us is adjournment. We have a motion by Mr. Horsfall, seconded by Ms. Ritter to adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, no. Motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.